Joining me now on the latest efforts to make that intelligence memo public, the FBI's failure to preserve those text messages or outright destroy them, and much more. Joining us tonight is Congressman Ron DeSantis, member of several key committees, including Foreign Affairs, Judiciary, and Oversight, and now also a candidate for governor of the great state of Florida. Great to have you with us, Congressman. Let's start with 50,000 emails between two employees of the Justice Department, and the fact they had time to write that many, and secondly, the ability of the deep state, if you will, the permanent government, as in the case of Lois Lerner and the IRS, we have again encountered the glitch, a missing set of emails against all logic, all reason, and all experience. What in the world is going on?
A few things, Lou. One is we need to figure out where the actual devices were that Page and Strzok utilized. There's no reason those shouldn't be produced. We need an answer on that. And even if there was some type of glitch, the idea that these text messages disappear, that is not the way it works with modern technology. I don't buy this explanation. We need more. Think about this, too. If the FBI were investigating any one of your listeners and they said, oh, documents magically deleted, or whatever the FBI was looking for magically deleted, do you think for 1 minute that they would be able to get away with that? So similar to the IRS, you can't have a situation in which a powerful government agency gets to live under a lower standard than that which it imposes on the American public. And the final thing, I think, is what a critical time period in this whole investigation. I mean, think about it. You're in the Trump transition to start. That was when that discredited dossier was produced for the first time and published by the news media. What was Strzok and Page talking about the dossier? It was also during Trump's early days in the White House when Michael Flynn was interviewed, when different things involving Comey occurred. Are you telling me that they weren't saying all kinds of stuff in those 50,000 messages? These are anti-Trump agents. And it's not just that they were anti-Trump. We already know from the messages we already saw that that affected what they were doing in their jobs.
Yeah, it is, in point of fact, I mean, it's not as if they had a bias or that they're anti. I mean, they were on an absolute mission to stop Donald Trump if they could, and apparently if they could not, to destroy his presidency. I mean, this is, I don't understand how Christopher Wray, anyone in Congress can accept Christopher Wray walking up and saying they were lost, they were deleted, whatever he has to say, produce them, and he did this with a straight face. Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI.
It's unacceptable. We are not accepting it. This is just the beginning. We are going to get the answers. But also think about the Strzok Page messages that were recently produced in this second batch. Right when Donald Trump defeated Ted Cruz in Indiana, Strzok and Page are texting back saying, oh my gosh, Trump has won the nomination. And what was Strzok's main response to that? Again, he's leading the Hillary investigation as the top FBI agent. He says, well, now the pressure builds to bring the Clinton investigation to a close. How does it follow from that? I mean, that is what the guy's bias was telling him to do. It's really outrageous.
It is outrageous, and the Department of Justice and the FBI, Congressman, have become outrageous in and of themselves. I cannot understand why there would be any other response on the part of Devin Nunes, the head of the committee, the Republican leadership, other than to order in U.S. Marshals into the Justice Department and say, we want all of the records sealed for the top levels of the FBI and the Department of Justice. They're carrying out a campaign not only of denying oversight, their constitutional responsibility, as it is yours to oversee those to that agency and that department. They are absolutely just flaunting law and order and the Constitution, and it is beyond the pale that it can be tolerated. This is not a time for an IG inspector's report. This is time for criminal national security investigations of the two agencies who bear immense responsibility for national security.
Well, I think it is clear that the FBI and the DOJ are not going to be able to investigate themselves adequately.
Right.
And if you do a special counsel, Lou, I think it's imperative that that special counsel not just be another swamp dweller. I want somebody outside the swamp who doesn't have any relationships with either of these agencies that could really go in and clean this up. And think about, too, the bias against Donald Trump, I think, is very significant. It's important. But also the mere fact that Strzok and Page, they're having this liaison. They're texting about really sensitive matters. They're opening themselves up to blackmail from our enemies. I mean, that is reckless conduct, even if they weren't politically biased, to be doing that. And somehow they're still working in the Bureau?
And as you tweeted today, you're saying FBI Director Wray needs to provide an explanation. This is, I understand that there are great constraints and hurdles for the Congress to move here quickly with great alacrity. But this has now become an urgent national security crisis for the reasons you've described here tonight, for some of the reasons that I have mentioned. We know now the corruption, there's no question about the corruption. The evidence is already public. We have a 4-page memo that we don't seem to be able, even though every congressman, including yourself, who has read that memo says it is a matter that goes to the heart of the survival of the republic. What in the world? At what point do we have to declare, take charge, get this thing handled, and no more business as usual, even under these grave circumstances?
I've been fighting to make that memo public. I can tell you it is going to happen. I think that there's precautions that are being taken on the Intel Committee, which I understand, to make sure that when that's done, that there's not damage to any sources and methods. And I don't think there will be. I think they'll do that. So that is being vetted. That is going to happen, and the public will get at least that part of the story. There's other parts of the story that are going to come out too. So we will do that. And in terms of Christopher Wray, he needs to be brought before the Congress under oath, and he's got to answer these questions very soon. We're breaking now after the shutdown ended. The president's going to give his State of the Union. I think shortly after that State of the Union, we need Wray under the Clegg lights, under oath, to answer these questions.
I know that you and I share a great fear that having this many missing emails and communications disappear, that what we're fighting against is also all of us who are concerned for the survival of this country. What we're fighting against is the prospect that a lot of evidence is being destroyed by the very people who should be preserving it. So the issue becomes, the crisis becomes compounded. Congressman, I have to say to you personally, I feel a lot better knowing that you are involved in leading the efforts there. Congressman Ron DeSantis, thank you.
Thanks, Lou.
We're coming right back with much more. Stay with us.